When you hit the gas in your Buick Enclave or Chevy Traverse or GMC Acadia, are you getting like a shifting or a clunking feeling? Well, today we're going to look at one of the issues, or one of the problems that can cause that issue, and I'm going to show you how to correct it. So behind me is this 2009 Buick Enclave, and we're working on a couple issues today. But what we're going to be looking at in this video is a complaint that, when he'll put it in gear, try to drive, he'll get a clunking when he starts taking off from a stop, or if he puts it in reverse, he'll just kind of feel a shifting, a hard shifting and a clunking. And it's pretty common on some of these engines. A lot of them, they get a torque strut engine mount that goes bad, and it lets the engine rock excessively. And I'm going to show you where to look at to check the upper torque strut on this engine and see if it's bad. Okay, just for reference, so you can see the area of the engine compartment we're going to be working in, over here on the passenger side, it's underneath this fuse box. Under there, there's a little metal bracket that covers it up, and then the torque strut's down there. So it is difficult to see, but when I get you a shot of it, I want you to understand where we're looking. We're going to look right down here in between the engine and down underneath that plate to get a better look at it. And to do that, we're going to pull this engine cover off. Now, to pull the engine cover off, we pull this oil cap off, and then this will pop up and out. It sits down on these studs on the rubber retainers right there, and my rags are falling. Set that off to the side, and we're gonna look right down in here. Okay, so I'll show you. It's kind of hard to tell if you don't know what you're looking at, but right down here, this is the upper strut, torque strut mount, and you can see, I'll try to zoom in here for you, that rubber right there is torn. That rubber is supposed to be one piece where it's separated right there, and I'm going to rock the vehicle, and you see how it shifts like that? Well, that rubber right in there, this side and that side, should be connected and dampen that movement. But when they tear like that, it lets the top of that engine shift back and forth as you put it in gear and hit the gas to try to accelerate or move backwards. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at the process. It can be a little intimidating for someone if you're not familiar with working on cars, but it's a pretty simple process to get this fuse box out of the way, get that cover gone, pull that torque strut out and replace it. So let's go ahead and get started. And the first thing we're going to have to do is disconnect the battery. And on this vehicle and similar vehicles, the battery is back here directly behind the front passenger seat under the floor. You simply pop up this trim that comes off the middle seat, and then this cover that goes over it has one little small bolt that holds it down, and it pops right up. And all we've got to do is disconnect the negative side, and then we'll take these rags to set around it to make sure it doesn't accidentally come back in contact with the battery and re-energize the system while we're working on it. So back up here at the front of the vehicle, we're going to start taking this fuse box out of the way. Now you can take this trim off if you want. There's little connectors that hold it down, just trim retainers, but you won't gain a whole lot by doing that. The top of the fuse box is held on at 3 points, one right back here, one right here, and one on the side. And it does not hurt sometimes to have just a flat blade screwdriver to kind of reach down and press the connections. Now when you're disconnecting this and the portions of the fuse box that we're about to get to, be careful how you pry and what you're prying, because you don't want to damage anything. So we can, if you want to, there's kind of two ways to go about this, and I've known people who do it both ways. Is you can dismount the whole fuse box and then separate it, or you can take these bolts out first, take the upper portion of the fuse box off, and then take the bottom up. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this upper portion off first, which means we're going to undo these bolts. We're going to pull this up, undo this wire coming up. There's the positive feed going in here, and then we can unclip the top from the bottom, pull that up and out of the way, and then the connectors that go to the back of it will be left below it. We'll be able to move those out of the way and get the bottom portion of the fuse box out so that we can access the plate below it. So we'll start by pulling this off, and we don't, oh goodness, we don't have to worry about this touching anything because we have disconnected the negative battery cable and de-energized the system. So we'll set that just off to the side and take this nut and just thread it right back on there. It'll help keep you from losing anything. Now this just clips right back on, but there's no need to set it on the point, so we'll set it out of the way. And then we'll pull these up, and these should be 10 millimeters. Sorry, so just go nice and easy on these because we're not trying to go crazy. These don't hold on brake brackets or anything. These just connect, hold the connectors on the bottom side up to it. And so then what we'll do is right down here, these upper clips that you can tell that there's clips down low that hold the bottom part of the fuse box in, but there's these clips, and there's a number of them around there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 of them, and they hold the upper portion of the fuse box to the lower portion. Now what you can do is you can come in here with a screwdriver and very lightly push it out, but you can also grab most of these with your thumb and push it out. But the ones that are down on the side in between the the fender and that, you might have to do. But be careful, because like any plastic, if you push that too far, you can break it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep pressure up, kind of pulling up on this upper portion, and then I'm going to slowly start to pull those clips out. And what's going to happen is you'll start to get it kind of one corner or one side at a time. And that's okay, because it's gonna, if you're not careful and you don't keep that pressure up on it, you can let it sink back down into the clips. And I think I did there. I required a slightly longer screwdriver. So just keeping some pressure up on it, we'll walk around and open these up. As you get it up, you'll feel it shift, and you'll kind of feel it shift around the points where there's still clips left in. And that can help you determine where you need to move next. Alright, that should probably be it. So once you get that loose and you go to pull that up, you may just let that loose. And then there's this. Oh, I didn't get all of that off. Look at me. I left one sitting on this. Pull both of those hoses off, or wires off. And then there's a connector back here on the back side. We'll pull this down and out. Those were the ones we unbolted. And we can take this fuse box carefully and set it off to the side. This connector back here, you will have to disconnect this clip right here, This back portion is actually mounted to the bracket we're going to be removing. So what we'll do is the tab on the front, we'll just push it down and pull it out. You will have to push on it a bit, but just try not to break it, because what it's doing is you're pushing on that back part, but it's lifting the little release up inside there. And just push it back out of the way along with the rest of the wiring. And then this portion we'll just kind of work back around this trim. And one of the reasons I have these rags here is we'll be pushing this stuff back towards the painted area, not necessarily hanging on it, but we just want to make sure that when we get close we don't scratch up the paint with anything. And then this portion we'll pull up and out of the way and just kind of hold it up to the front and out of your way. Now this is the bottom portion of the fuse box that I was talking about, and it's got these clips right here which hold it down. And the way these clips disconnect is very similar. There's little arms that come up, and you can see it in the middle there. You just need to take this tab and push it out and pull upward. And you're going to do the same. You're going to keep pressure upward as you work around, and you pull all of the tabs up to try to dislodge it. It does take a little bit to kind of get used to doing stuff like this, but it's really not that hard. Once you understand what's happening and what you got to do, then it's just the confidence you have there to do it. That may be enough. We'll just pull this up and out. Now see, like I said, some people, they would pull the whole fuse box up and then separate it. Personally, I just find this to be a little bit easier, and we'll set that off to the side too. Now this bracket has to come out of the way. So to get this bracket up, we'll just lightly pry up on this, find where it's connected in, pry that up so that it doesn't hang up on the bracket. And this has a bolt down here, a nut right here, and a nut right here, and I believe that's it that holds this in. It has been a while, but we'll pull this nut off, this nut off. Oh, look at that. One more connector back here. We don't have to disconnect this one. Just kind of pry it up and out of the way. And then pull that nut off. And then this bolt, I needed an extension, go figure. Hold that up out of the way. Whew. Look at me, saving the day for myself. Alright, now this will just pull off those tabs and out of the way. Set it to the side as well. Now this right here is what's torn, and you can see it moves all around, and it should not. That rubber right there is what's torn. You can see where it's broken free, and that's what lets the top of this engine flop around. So now all we have to do to remove it is remove this bolt, and kind of twist it and pull it out. So these are 15mm heads, and make sure my socket's going to stay on my impact here. We'll just come in here and see how much that one fell out of place, because it's not held by the other one anymore. It's completely goodness, look at that. Oh, I think my battery's getting low. It's alright. That's why we have hand tools. My goodness, maybe. I see the one that came out of the engine side is longer, so just remember which one came from where. Now this, man, it makes you look special sometimes trying to pull this out. This might not be so bad because it's busted, but getting the new ones in, man, they can be a pain. You've got just the right size, shaped, angled opening to get it through here on the body side. And if it's not just right, man, it'll make you work for it. And what I'm doing here is just sticking my screwdriver down through the mount hole and prying on the back side of it to try to help push it out. I think that's about it. It's about it. There we go. And it comes out. And now, you see, I'm going to put the other piece. This, obviously, not how that was designed to be. Let's get the new one. Alright, so on the new one, I believe this little indentation here is to allow for this portion of the body to sit in it. So I think this is the side that faces down. I could be wrong. I could be dead wrong on that. But we want to try to find that right perfect angle. Oh my goodness. Did we get it? Oh, look at that. Thank you, Lord. Slide this down through the hole. Get it started. Take the other one. Slide it down through the hole. And get it started. You don't want it, you got a little bit of play, so kind of where you got this clearance on the bottom, that little arc, just make sure it's not super close. And then tighten the bolts down. And I have no qualms about hammering on that, especially because, well, one, it's an engine mount, and two, pretty sure my battery is getting low. No, I'm not torquing these to spec, but I've put hundreds of them in, and they're tight enough. That is what this mount should look like. Okay, having put this, taken this apart, I'm sure you'll be able to figure out how this goes back together, because it goes back together the same way it was before you took it apart. We'll just line this up on these studs. And I, personally, will start with this bolt. Maybe, if it doesn't make me look like a fool. So that's started. And that is started, yeah. Now, my word of caution on this is these nuts, tighten those back before you tighten the bolt down. Because if you cinch the bolt down and lock this in place, then you'll just be stressing back on these tabs to tighten those nuts down. And to avoid the issue I had bringing it out, I'm going to run this down with a little wobble joint added to it. Good. Now we'll take the lower portion. First we'll clip this back in place. Clip that back in place. And make sure when you're bolting this down that you didn't pinch any of these harnesses back there. It's pretty easy to overlook something like that, and I've pinched harnesses before. It stinks, but you got to go back and fix it. So might as well fix it while you're here if you mess it up. So next we'll take the lower portion of the fuse box, line it up on the studs, all stud-like. I know it was a bad joke. And just push it down into place. And then this sets in here. This will set back in here. And they have little grooves and they sit down in. You'll feel if they're not down all the way. This harness has a piece that comes out this side. Make sure it's sitting right. This will plug back in to there. Now, the fuse box. These screws, or these bolts on here, let me show you. They are a tapered end, or a reduced shank on the end. And I've done a video on lug studs that are like that, so they're very hard. I'll link that up here for you to take a look at, right about there. But they're difficult to cross thread and mess up. But do not take that to mean impossible. It can be done. So if these are in place and located within those tabs where they're supposed to be, and you take the upper fuse box and you push it straight down onto its locks, then you should be able to take these and just slowly, you can feel it tightening. And if you heard, I'll show you there 1 second. If you get to where you hear that click, that is it stopping you. That is tight enough. You're not holding anything onto the vehicle like suspension, nothing like that. These are just holding two electrical connectors together. So once you get down to where those click, that's good. That's back on. Now take this back off. Put both of the wires you took off back on. And that is not a 13, that's a 15. 13. Tighten that back down. Again, you're not trying to break anything. Just want it on there good and snug. Then this will clip down. There we go. Clip on. Fuse box lid. Maybe we put it the right way. Back down. Take the engine cover and put it back. You'll line the oil filler up, and then you'll just hold it straight, line that up, and then you'll feel where it can just clip down in place. Oil cap. And then we'll hook the battery back up. So, sorry I'm blocking you. Just gonna take the negative battery cable, set it back down on the stud, set our ratchet to reinstall, or on, or tighten snug it up. Then we'll take this cover. It sets on like that. This trim will go in here. Just make sure it's over everything it's supposed to be over. Maybe even face it the right way it's supposed to be faced. Clip it back down, and then there is one singular bolt that goes through this hole, and you can run it down by hand. This one was actually barely even installed. It doesn't have to do much, it's just kind of half securing that, and you can get it tight enough by hand that it is installed. Put the floor mat back in place, clip it down, and done. So if you have a 2009 or similar year range, I will put it in the description what all year ranges this should apply to. Buick Enclave, GMC Acadia, or Chevy Traverse, I think that's the ones these all apply to. This is how you replace the upper torque strut, and it's not that difficult. It's intimidating because you pull the fuse box apart, and some people are worried about doing that. It's not a very difficult job. Follow the steps, take your time, and get this done in about an hour in your driveway, and be right on the way. Save yourself a little bit of money. I hope that if you had this problem, this was your solution and it helped fix it. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope that it helped you. I hope that if you were having this issue, that this was your solution and you were able to complete it. And I will see you guys in the next video.